we know that that the president, just by executive order, removed the work requirement for temporary assistance for needy families, what we called the Clinton-era welfare reform. So we know people are going to be just getting on it.
Well, look, welfare, I'm sure we all agree, should require no sales pitch. It should require no marketing. The few people that need assistance, and we should want there to be few people. We should not want this to become a huge program. The few people that require assistance should know exactly how to get it, and we should do targeted outreach to the people who truly need it. The idea that they are selling it and marketing it and embarking on this ad campaign, I think, is a huge indictment of exactly the purpose of this. And I think you're right that the idea here is the more people we can get onto this program, the more bodies we have, the more mouths to feed, the more money we can request, the more money we can demand of taxpayers.
And it creates reliable Democrat voting constituencies because they're viewed as pushing this program. They're viewed as people who are creating greater state dependency, which is really what this is about. They want as many people, especially right now. I mean, this is, to me, it looks like a bald-faced vote grab. They want as many people as possible to be getting stuff from the government so that when they go in there to pull the lever one side or the other, they're pulling it for the Democrats.
You know, I agree with much of what you just said, but it seems to me that the location of our repulsion, the location of our objection lies at the existence and the style of the message, encouraging entitlement, encouraging it in a way that says, oh, Maria thinks she should do things on her own, isn't that sad? That is kind of the objectionable part. To me, I'm having trouble reaching the objectionable part that this is disseminated through the Mexican consulate in partnership with the nation of Mexico. Here's why. Let me just return to one thing you said, Andrew, and ask you a question. We have the chart that shows the number of remittances, I think, over a 15-year period.
Yeah, spike.
That's total remittances. Is that correct? So we don't see a direct correlation between the extension of the SNAP program and these remittances. There are many factors contributing to remittances spiking over this time period,
but look at the spike from 2004.
But that's
that is a huge escalation when the price of food or the cost of food was now alleviated by the opportunity cost, or I should say the opportunity cost of remittances is now being addressed in the fact that the government of the United States is using taxpayer funding to feed people who should reliably be feeding themselves.
But in a sense of fairness, I think we'd have to say this is at best a correlation. I think you'd have trouble making the argument that's a causation. Fair?
I don't know for sure.
I think the government knows that a lot of people who are here illegally are going to be taking advantage of this program, and that's why they're targeting it at certain populations.
To be fair, there's other web videos.
To the next step,
I think they're making it in bad faith.
And that's where I think I'm not ready to go with you yet. And that is, I'm fully ready to embrace the objection to the concept of saying entitlements and welfare and assistance are something that should be encouraged, right? But using the Mexican government as a partner. And the Mexican
we have Spanish-speaking Americans.
We have Spanish-speaking Americans, and it might just be the fact, though, that they turn to the Mexican consulate as a source of trust. And if that's how you have to disseminate that message, well, I don't know where I see
Americans who may speak Spanish, if they're Americans,
well,
and they're here legally,
as well.
If they're here legally, we have plenty of Spanish language media. You know that, being from Texas, and I believe you have a background in Spanish language media. There are plenty of American resources to communicate with people. I know that some of us find the idea of putting voting ballots in foreign languages objectionable, but this is not something that we need to involve the Mexican government in, because now we've made them a client of a federal program.
So let me ask this, and I see your point that these numbers, they're not per capita, so could this increase could simply be a flood of new people coming across the border and sending money back.
Economic growth.
Exactly. However, it's this complicity with the Mexican government, and it appears trying to make our border more porous, and I call your attention to this guidebook that was discovered back in 2005. I'm sure you remember it. And this was printed by the Mexican government. It was a guidebook
on how to get
across the border illegally, including this lovely picture. See that wall? Here's how you can get over it. Here, do you see that river? Here's how you can get through it. This was printed by the Mexican government. I think we said, please stop doing that, but they didn't, and they didn't take it seriously.